What's up, guys? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be bringing you another season preview and prediction. Today we're going to be doing the Toronto Raptors 2020-2021 season preview and prediction. So without further ado, let's get into it. Looking at their 2019-20 season, they won the finals the previous season with Kawhi Leonard, as we all know. Had a really good run, beat the Warriors in the finals. It was kind of a weird finals because the Warriors definitely were the better team, but there was a lot of injuries, and the Raptors ended up winning. So good for them. They got their championship. Kawhi ended up leaving, though, for the Los Angeles Clippers, and a lot of people looked at the Raptors as kind of like a good story, and they thought they could still make the playoffs, and they were like a decent team, but had no star and just lacked talent to be as good of a team, a championship contender like they were the year before. So going into the season, they maxed out Pascal Siakam, and he turned into an all-star for them. He averaged like 25 and 7 on really good efficiencies, shot the ball from three really well, really good in transition, showed some playmaking abilities, just seemed like a really good player going into the playoffs. It was like a top 10 caliber player. And they finished second in the East. They had really great coaching from Nick Nurse, really good chemistry, just like that championship pedigree that they had, and they had one of the best defenses in the league with Lowry, Van Fleet, Gasol, OG, and Pascal. So just like looked like an actual contender going in to the playoffs, even though like we all knew the talent was kind of lacking compared to other teams. They just didn't have like a true number one. And that showed against the Celtics. Pascal Siakam really struggled. They were able to defend him without doubling and just putting really good on-ball defenders like Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Semi Ojeleye. Just like guys like that really made it hard and basically stopped Siakam. He didn't have a good game. He was really inefficient the whole series, and it just visualized how limited he was as an offensive player. If you actually can plan against him, like he kind of falls in the same boat as Giannis, not even close, because Giannis is way better and way more physically imposing. That's like, I'd kind of say he's a light version of Giannis, but I'll get into him when I talk about him. So yeah, let's look at what they did this season. A few draft picks, Malachi Flynn and Jalen Harris, 29th and 59th overall, but neither of them are getting playing any minutes, so we'll ignore them for now. Free agents they signed, Aaron Baines from the Phoenix Suns, and this is because of who they lost in free agency. They lost Serge and Marc Gasol, which I'll get to. Baines has been a really good, just like role player center, like really good at rebounding, screening, boxing out, defense, can stretch the floor for you sometimes. He's like a 35% shooter, and he's like one of those guys you just can't leave wide open. Really smart player, will make the right pass, just a really good team player to have, good role player, and I think he fits the chemistry of this team, and just like the energy this team carries with them, like just like a tough-nosed, like we're gonna grind on defense and play just hard basketball. So I think he really fits their culture. That's what I was looking for, their culture. But the only problem is he has trouble staying healthy. He hasn't really stayed healthy any season in the past 2 or 3 seasons. Last season with the Suns, he missed a lot of games for them. If he's healthy, I think he's a very good center to have. But yeah, it's just a question if he could stay healthy. Another player they signed, center Alex Len from Sacramento, and this is a little less exciting. Len is not a bad center. He's just like just a kind of league average center at everything. Like I just don't think he has any real above average traits as a player. Like you can get by with him playing your center minutes, but it's like he's not going to be giving you anything positive. And I think that's one of the faults with this team. Len definitely is just not giving them good minutes compared to what they used to get. I'm going to talk about it right after this, but the two bigs they had before, Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, having those two as like always a big man on the court with those two, and then Chris Boucher as like a third option if you really needed it. They were set at that position by that committee, and now they're down to Boucher, Baines, and Len actually playing minutes. And if Baines gets injured at some point, which I think he already missed a game, you're going to have to play Alex Len about 20 minutes a game. So it's a little troubling to be relying on a guy like Alex Len that much, and I think this just is a visualization of like the talent slowly lessening on this team, and as this team just gets more seasons removed from that championship run. So yeah, I don't love the minutes they're giving Alex Len, but it's kind of necessary just because they don't really have many big men on this roster. So yeah, like I said, leaving them in free agency, we have Marc Gasol, who went to the Los Angeles Lakers. And this one, he didn't play super well in the playoffs. He looked a little washed, honestly, just like very slow-footed. He just didn't look like he had any athleticism left. Just like had trouble running out to the perimeter and then like recovering on guards. Like he's just not going to be very switchable at this point in his career. And he just wasn't really scoring the ball really well either. He still has like a really good basketball mind, like passing the ball. You could still find open guys. You can still run some offense through him. He's still smart defensively, so as long as you're not asking him to like stay in front of someone, he can still be in the right place and protect the rim and just be a big body down there. So it's a tough loss. He's just a really smart player and a nice player to have, and you're not really like Aaron Baines is a pretty good replacement for him, but then after that you don't really have much. And where you also lost the next guy, Serge Ibaka from the Clippers, who was kind of like your I don't want to say like flamethrower center, but like he was definitely the more offensive-minded center. I was surprised they didn't play him as much in the Celtics series just because how well he was shooting the ball. Like he was shooting a ridiculous percentage from three. I'm not exactly sure, but it just felt like he was the more dangerous of the two players between him and Marc Gasol. But they let him go to the Clippers, a really good signing by the Clippers. And this is probably what hurts the most. They're going to, I guess, try to replace his minutes with Chris Boucher. And he's done a pretty good job of that so far this season. But I just think the veteran leadership he gives you, plus just how good of a shooter he was. Like, he really was a knockdown three-point shooter for them down the stretch of last season. And he just has a lot. He had a lot of good games with the Raptors. Like, he had a really big game in that finals run. It's just a tough player to lose culture-wise and actual impact on the basketball court-wise. So yeah, looking at this roster, there's OG Anunoby, who was injured during the finals run, came back this year, hit a really big shot in the Celtics series to get them not down 3-0 with like 0.5 seconds left to hit like a buzzer beater three to make it 2-1 and then eventually tie the series up 3-3. Really good player. He got an extension. I think it's like $80 million for 4 years, something like that. And even though it's a little overpay for what he is, I think it's pretty worth it. He's just a super nice player to have. Like, just having a wing who's as versatile as OG is just so nice. Like, you can just slot him anywhere you want. Like, there's times where he was playing center for the Raptors, and he did it pretty well. It's just he's athletic and at a good frame. Like, he's 6'8", so he's just able to guard up if he needs to. He can guard down if he needs to. If you need him to be an off-ball shooter, he can do that. He can cut to the rim. He has some creating ability, not much. That's like the one thing. He actually has been pretty good shooting the ball and efficiency this season. His efficiency has been good, but I feel like he's just one of those players where like once he actually is told to do certain things on offense, like once he's a focal point, that's just gonna just drop. Like he definitely benefits off being the third or fourth option on this team and just working off whatever the stars are getting. But nonetheless, he's still a really good player and a really nice player to have. I really like OG. Great defender. I think he could be one of the best defenders in the league. Yeah, I just think he's going to be like one of those perfect role player type guys. So yeah, another player, Norman Powell. He was a big part of what they were doing last season. He averaged like 17 points a game for them off the bench, I believe. He either started or was off the bench, which now that I think about it, if he was off the bench, he could have been a six-man candidate. But anyway, he was really good for them. Shot like near 40% from three on a good amount of attempts, and had a bunch of big games or a bunch of big moments in the Celtics series. Had like a big overtime to send it to Game 7. So yeah, just like has been with this team for a while, been a really good player for them. But the one thing is his shot has been inconsistent, and so far this year it hasn't been going in. It's like this is kind of a trend with his career. He has up and down shooting years, and this is a down one so far. Hopefully he can figure it out. But that's basically all it is with him. Like, he's just a scorer and a microwave guy, and if he can get his shooting back, he's going to be useful for them. If not, I could see him getting traded, or even I don't know his contract, but probably going to be let go if he can't fix his shooting woes right now. But if he can, I think he's just a nice player to have, and he doesn't cost a ton. So yeah, just a good microwave guy off the bench. Another player, Matt Thomas, who doesn't get a lot of minutes, but I just wanted to highlight him because I feel like he probably could with this team, because right now this team's problem is they are not scoring the ball very well at all. And Matt Thomas is a really good three-point shooter. He shoots about 42% on like 2 or 3 threes a game, and he doesn't play a lot, but he has that ability to run around and just catch and shoot over people and screens and just like throw the ball up in a split second, and it's still an efficient shot. So if I were the Raptors, I'd probably give him more minutes and try to just get him more involved, just because I feel like his offense can, or just like his threes can like jumpstart this offense in a way. Just like having a guy who can hit 4 or 5 threes any given night is just a super nice thing to have, and they really do need the scoring. So I think Matt Thomas could see the court more this season, so watch out for that. And then another player, Chris Boucher, who they drafted a few years ago from Oregon. He's now playing their backup center minutes, but he's playing a lot of minutes. Like, he's only playing 1 less minute than Aaron Baines, who's starting right now, and he's honestly been better than Aaron Baines. They both average the same amount of rebounds, about 6 a game. But Boucher is averaging 6 more points, and he's shooting pretty well from 3 at 36%. Pretty athletic, pretty switchable. I really like Boucher. I think he can be a really good piece for them. I think he already is. He's just more of a modern day big than what they already have. He's not really bruiser type. Like, against other bigs, I could see him kind of getting abused just because he is really skinny and just has a tiny frame. But his ability to guard other guards and just guard up a few positions, and his abilities on offense, he's more of like a wing type offensive big, if that makes sense, like an Anthony Davis type, where you can use his athleticism, he can shoot, he can like actually do things on the move. So I really like Boucher. I think his potential is probably, like, he's one of the few players on this team I would keep, like one of the young players, I'm saying, like if they were looking to rebuild in the future, just because it's starting to go downhill and they have a few older players, I would look to keep Boucher. So another player, Terrence Davis, who was the last pick in last year's draft, or he was undrafted, I forget, but played pretty good minutes for the Raptors last season. Not doing so this season. He didn't play well in the playoffs. Like, they started playing him in the Celtics series, and they realized this just isn't going to work. So they moved on. He didn't get any minutes, and this year he's only averaging like 3 minutes a game, and his efficiency is pretty poor. I just wanted to highlight him to see, like, to show that like he's not playing as good as he was, and he was a really good story last year. So I hope he can get his act back together and see the court more for the Raptors, because he was a pretty good scorer for them last year, really good at getting to the rim, and they could really use some offense right now. So maybe he could, if he could find his game again, he'll be useful for them. So yeah, another player, Kyle Lowry, the leader of this team. He's getting up there in age. He's been an all-star for a while now, part of that championship run, of course. He's like definitely the mental leader of this team, and he's been pretty good this season. I think he's averaging 20 points a game. He's really like shouldered the offensive load of this team, even in the playoffs. You could see it. Like, he just, like, when he had Kawhi, he started dipping down in numbers. Even before, when they had DeMar DeRozan, he was already dipping down in the low teens, like 15, 14 points a game. Like, I could tell he was starting to like get that role more, where he's more of like a facilitator and just getting other people involved. But this team just doesn't have the shooters and talent around him to allow him to do that. So he realizes he needs to actually score the ball more. So he's a really good player, just a really smart player, very cerebral, just like understands the game on a different level, really good at like getting fouls. I know people hate it, but he's really good at drawing charges and just like being in the right place at the right time. Really good flopper, honestly. Just like a really smart, savvy player. He's become a really good scorer, can heat up really quick, and if he's hot, he's really good from 3. I really like Kyle Lowry. I could see them trading him though if things don't work out. I don't think it's like going to be soon. Like, I don't think it's going to happen quickly, but I could see it happening if this season doesn't go as planned, and Lowry just wants to still play and be on a contender, and this team obviously just isn't there. But I could also see a world where Kyle Lowry just wants to retire with the Raptors just because what he's meant to this franchise. So we'll see what happens there. Looking at the young players on this team, the young stars, I guess, Fred VanVleet, who got an extension this offseason. I'm not exactly sure the number it'll show. He's really good. I like Fred VanVleet. It's weird how similar him and Lowry are. I think Lowry's a perfect mentor to him just because they are very similar. Both smart, savvy players who play a little feisty. Like, they're little guys, but they can guard up a few positions. Like there was a lot of times in the Celtics series that they were on Jason Tatum, and they kind of do this thing where they're so small that they can get into like the gut of the other player, so they really can't put the ball on the ground because you have this like dude who's just like the same height as you dribbling the ball. So it's like really hard for you to dribble the ball around a player like that, even though you could shoot over them very easily. And yeah, he's a really good 3-point shooter, really good at shooting off the dribble, off like high pick and rolls and stuff like that. Good at using his body and getting in the paint, and like I said, a good defender, and a pretty good passer too. I just don't know if he's like all-star Kyle. Like I don't think he's like a top 30 player, top 25 player. I think he's just a really, really good role player, like a really, really good player to have, but just not that all-star level player. And I think they kind of need him to be that if they're gonna like be what they have been for the past few seasons, like championship contenders. And then the max player on this team, the star, Pascal Siakam, who definitely the perception of him has dropped. He's had a rough start of the season and had a rough playoffs. And I like Siakam. I think he's a good player. I just think, like I said, he's similar to Giannis in the way where like both of them are new to basketball. They both like were just good athletes, and then basketball came secondary. It wasn't like they loved basketball all throughout their life. And Siakam even said the pandemic was a struggle for him because he really didn't know how to practice basketball. Like he just didn't know how to train by himself for basketball. So he looked bad in the bubble. He hasn't looked great this season, and his offensive game was shown to be very limited. He was over reliant on spin moves getting to the rim, and he just was out of control. Didn't shoot the ball well, and when he wasn't shooting the ball well, he couldn't get to the rim either. He really only got his offense in transition and just like dump off passes that were layups and dunks. And right now I'm kind of scared because I just think he's kind of lost some confidence now too. And for him, I know the only for sure part of his offensive game is that he's really good in transition. He's still a great defensive player, don't get me wrong, but they're paying him to be a top 20 player in the league, and I thought he could be that, and I'm not so sure he can now. And they really do need him to be that if they're gonna sustain this success that they've had. And that's kind of where I am on this team. Like looking at their prediction, I like this team, and I think there's still a lot of good culture, like championship culture, and just like there is still talent here, obviously, and even young talent. They have a good amount of young talent with OG, Boucher, Van Fleet, and Siakam. Siakam and Van Fleet aren't that young, but they're still like not old. And it's just like I like this team, but I feel like it's going to be a slow burn, just because like a slow burn decline, just because you have a really great coach in Nick Nurse, who won Coach of the Year last year. And it's just like they're going to keep playing winning basketball. Like they have all the right habits. They play good defense. They're not going to beat themselves, but they're just not that talented. Like they overachieved for the talent they had last season, and they lost in the second round. And now they're even less talented than they are. They don't have as good of a big rotation. Lowry's a year older. Siakam hasn't been playing at the same level he was during the regular season last year. So yeah, I could see this team dipping a bit. I don't see them being the 2 seed again. I see them being around the 6 to 8 seed in the East, especially with the East getting better. And yeah, I do think they'll probably make the top 7. I think they are good enough to do that, but I could see them falling in the play-in tournament. But I do think they'll make the playoffs overall. That's what I think about the Toronto Raptors. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe below, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.